Welcome to the Only One Shot Golf Podcast. I'm Jim Gallagher Jr., and I'm excited about today's guest. That's Josh Teater. He just recently got his tour card back for the third time to the Korn Ferry Tour. I was paired with him a few years ago. It was then called the Viking Classic in Madison at Annandale, and is now called the Sanderson. I'm so impressed with this game. I think it was in the I'm going to say late 2010 time, and just didn't see a lot of flaws in his game. Wonderful young man, good player, and just thought the future was really bright for him. But a few bumps in around the roads and down the roads, and like I said, graduated from the Korn Ferry Tour for the third time, and we're going to go back over this a couple weeks ago, that nerve-wracking final round to sneak in. He started 34th on that list, needed to be in the top 30. Finished 26th with a fifth-place finish at that Korn Ferry Tour Championship, and a return to the PGA Tour at 44 years old. So a really cool story. Can't wait for you to get to know Josh, and it's going to be some fun getting to spend some time with him and catch him back up.
Here we go.
Well, Josh Teeter's on the line with us, and we appreciate him spending some time with us. Josh, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, Jim, thanks for having me. Always a pleasure chatting with you, and look forward to the conversation.
Well, I saw on Instagram that you went to the Need to Breathe concert, which I guess is pretty appropriate after the couple weeks you had out there on the Korn Ferry Tour. You lost in a playoff at the BMW to one of the up-and-coming college stars that came through the PGA Tour University. You're 44 years old. You're going up against these 20-year-olds, but you needed a really good finish that last week. But before we get to that last week, let's talk about those last couple weeks in the playoffs. And what's your mindset? How do you you use those past experience to get through there to try to get in that top 30?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I played pretty solid the whole year, and I wasn't looking to scramble or do anything new or different coming down the stretch. With my game, I was just trying to, jump into that top 30. I knew I had top 75 locked, and I had a Korn Ferry job next year. Not what we were all shooting for, but hey, it could be worse than that. So that was in my back pocket, and I was just trying to tell myself all year that I am older than these guys, but all my experience is going to pay off before the season's over with. And I think the last 2 weeks I really performed well on two courses that I'd never had played well on.
Wow.
In my career. So. Maybe a little bit of a mindset switch in those 2 weeks to go compete a little harder and just have a lot of fun, and it seemed to work.
Do you think that just that experience, and maybe you learned some things from those past experiences, not the things you want to learn, but that maybe helps you get through those last couple courses you really – and that's the thing that people don't understand. I mean, when people walk up to a golf course that they have played well at, they have that great confidence, but now you've got to turn around on a couple you haven't. I mean, how do you turn that around?
Yeah, so those two courses, Scarlet and then Victoria National, I feel like on paper, kind of favor my game, straight hitter and hit a lot of greens. But for whatever reason, when I've gone there, I haven't really performed well. And I think that just made me get more upset and more beside myself out there, and not able to, accept a bogey, or not really giving myself the freedom to make a bogey, if that makes any sense, because I just didn't feel like I ever made many birdies on those courses. So
right.
I just kind of went into the week knowing in Columbus it was going to be a tough week. The course was in firm, fast condition, so scores were going to be higher than years past, and I just felt like, hey, I've played for a long time. As long as I go around here and don't make any double bogeys and sprinkle in some birdies here and there, I think we can have a good week. And I was able to do that. And then kind of the same up there in Indiana. We had a couple of bad weather days, cool and windy on the weekend, and rain on Thursday. And I just, had tried to just free up, have fun, make the decision, see the shot I wanted to hit. And really just Joe, my caddy, and I kind of came up with this idea, like, we don't care once we do what we got to do pre-shot. Like, let's hit this putt, like we don't care, you know. And I feel like a lot of times I can get over some putts that really mean something. Let's say like the one on 17 Sunday, and you know, try to guide it in the hole and know that I have to make it. But I was like, you know what? I've done what I can do. Everybody that's out here watching me, supporting me, at home, people that are praying,
Yeah.
like they're feeling all the pressure. I think they've taken it away from me.
Yeah, well, you know, that's the
And,
thing. We strive to play free. And I think when
Yeah.
you're winning and you're playing well, you are playing free. You're not thinking about the next shot. You're not thinking what it means. And I think if you can find that secret to find more freedom, and that's the challenge of every player. I don't care if you're Rory McIlroy, you know, John Rahm, whoever you are. I think they all have struggled with that. But you talk about freedom. What you enter, and you said the bad weather. I think you were leading after 54, that final event, and you had to be probably top 5 to move in. What's that night before like? Because I always try to explain it's like you sleep like a baby. You're up every 2 hours. But I mean, how do how do you calm yourself down and not get too far ahead of yourself?
I'll be honest, like I was pretty at peace the whole time, you know, and I knew I was tied for the lead because I was in the last group, but I didn't really even look to see where I was projected to finish. I didn't, and I usually do. I don't really know why I didn't. And I just was like, hey, I've done what I can do. I'm going to go out there. I'm going to try to do what I did yesterday. You know, I bogeyed the first hole like I did on Saturday, and I'm like, you know, it is what it is. We got 17 more. Let's go do our best. And I don't know. I just feel like in those situations in the past, I've maybe tried to control the outcome way too much, and I just tried to like let go and play like I was out, you know, playing with you or some of my buddies around Lexington here, and just a casual round, because I know I've been in situations and I've tensed up, and I mean, there was times out there I still did it, you know, but I was able to, like, you know, I feel like take another deep breath and calm myself and, you know, make a right decision, like on 15 to lay up from 215 yards, which I rarely do.
Yeah, that's tough.
Yeah.
That takes discipline. I think you mentioned something, and I didn't want to interrupt you, but you said peace. And I remember at the Ryder Cup when I was playing Seve, and I prayed for peace, and I had that sense of peace. And maybe the good Lord was guiding you through this whole. He obviously was, and kept you from looking at the board to see where you stood. I think that's that sense of peace, and I think that's why you were able to play free. But like you said, you were 2 over through 11. Did you know at any point where you maybe stood there? Did you look at the leaderboard? You mentioned sometimes you didn't pay attention.
So when I made the bogey on 11, I was on 12T, and I saw projected 31st. So I was like, okay, we played this stretch really great yesterday, so we got to do it again. But then I made a really poor bogey on 13, so now I'm like going into the toughest stretch with, you know, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, and I'm like, we need 2 birdies, I think, is what I'm thinking in my mind. But really only 1 birdie hole, being the par 5. And I don't know, I had a 213 yards, I think, to the pin, and the wind was funny, and the lie was a little bit on a downhill, and I was in between like 7 wood and 3 wood, but that's a whole lot of club.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I just don't feel comfortable. And my caddy Joe, we talked it over. I'm like, we got to have a birdie though. He's like, but that doesn't change what we're doing here. Like, we got to do what the game calls for right now. And that was kind of a motto we've used most of the year. You know, sometimes you feel like you got to force it, but, you know, no, you got to still lay it up, or you got to chip out, or whatever it may be. But I laid up and didn't even hit the greatest wedge shot, but, you know, left it on the fringe with an uphill putt and was able to make that. And so that was 1 birdie. And I didn't know until I got on the 18th green that I was inside, because I just kind of peered over, saw the scoreboard, and it was half blocked by a grandstand or the crowd or whatever it might be. But I saw my name, and I saw it was in a green lettering. So I felt pretty good when I had a 20-footer that I was going to be in a good spot. And yeah, I mean, it was just it was I don't know how to explain it.
No, it's
I was back to being at peace.
yeah, yeah.
I mean, we were goofing off. Like we had one of the rules officials had to come out to give a drop for David Coker because he went in the water, and I mean, he and I joke all the time, and I like acted like I was going to trip him. I know he's a Jacksonville Jaguars fan, and they had played in London that morning. I'm like, who won? And I'm just trying to cut up and have fun and keep it light. Where in other situations like that, I'm super quiet and all the stuff's going on in your head,
Yeah, you got to slow your mind down. Sound like that sense of peace you did. You had that, but your kids are getting older now. What did they say to Dad when he made it? I mean, that just I know you got teary up. That's emotional, but how what did they say? Said because they got to witness it and see how you did.
Yeah, so they were at home. They had flag football games, and with it being so up in the air, I just kind of wanted them to stay home and not have to deal with the bad side of it if we weren't able to do it.
Yeah,
and enjoy their games. But they tried to stay up until we got home, and my oldest did. We had a 3-hour drive home, and I think we got home at like 11 or 11:30, and he was super excited. They had gotten balloons and I don't know, built this trophy.
Yeah, it's cool though, and I know I got you emotionally there, but it's emotional, and I know when I came back from the Ryder Cup, and Mary Langdon, who's now 31, was not quite 2, and she's wearing a T-shirt that my daddy beat Seve, and I mean to tell you, I'm melted, I think as we get older, we get a little softer, and we get a lot more emotional. And your kids will do that to you. And then when you have grandkids like I do, that just they ask for the keys to the truck, and I just give it to them. It's a lot easier. You want donuts? Sure. How many you want? 6. I think that's all part of the deal. But you've had plenty of ups and downs. This is your 3rd time making it back to the PGA Tour. What keeps you grinding it? What kind of keeps driving you to get back out there and keeps being successful? And I think that's a great question for anybody because you obviously love the game.
Yeah, I mean, I love the game. I love to compete. Golf kind of came to me as my 3rd love, I would guess.
Really?
I was a basketball guy being here in Kentucky. Like the dream is to play for the Cats, and obviously that didn't pan out. Basketball finished after middle school, and then baseball, through high school was my better sport. And then, golf I kind of felt like I could play it a lot longer. I meet a lot more people. Like it might be more beneficial long-term, career wise, if I wasn't able to, play the tour or whatever it may be. So, I just like to compete, whatever it may be. And, I think that's what keeps me going, and I still believe that I'm not playing I haven't played to my potential.
Yeah.
If I play the Korn Ferry Tour for a couple of years and I'm playing great and I'm making cuts on the number, then it's time to kind of give it up. But I can still shoot numbers and I can still compete, and I think I can still win on the PGA Tours.
Yeah, because we got paired together at the Viking Classic, and I think we were just in a twosome. I think somebody withdrew, and you had to put up with my old self in the heat and everything. I think you felt like you got to give me CPR a few times, but I just,
not at all, man.
it was a blast. I thought I watched your game, and I said, this guy's got it, and golf's just it's a hard game, and we have to keep telling ourselves. And I think the beauty of this all, I think Dottie Pepper on one of the podcasts said, you don't be afraid to put yourself out there, and you might fail, but you got to look yourself in the mirror and say, all right, how do I get better? And I think that's something that you've done, and the mental side is such a fascinating part for me. I wish I would have studied a little bit more of that, maybe in high school or college. But you've got to be friends with the Kentucky baseball coach who wasn't much into golf, but you kind of shared some ideas. Can you tell us how that relationship came upon, and maybe how he's helped you, and maybe you've even helped him some?
Yeah, so we became friends about a year ago. Nick Mingione's his name, and our mutual friend Aaron Hogue runs the FCA for the University of Kentucky, and he's close with Coach. And he just introduced us, and my kids had gone to his camp in the last couple summers, and I don't know, we just met up for lunch one day, and it just kind of sparked a great friendship that he's married and got a son that's 9, just like my oldest. They kind of play ball together, so we're kind of doing life in the same season, and he's trying to lead a high profile SEC baseball program to
a good one,
do great things, and I'm trying to have a great career deep into my 40s and then maybe the 50s, and we're trying to do the best we can in all facets of life. And we're both firm believers in Christ, and we just have a lot in common. And I don't know, he threw some ideas at me that maybe he and former Mississippi State assistant golf coach had used, just about competing on a daily basis, in practice rounds, and maybe not hitting 100 putts or 12 chips on a hole, but like going out there and actually playing for something,
right?
On Monday and Tuesday. And I kind of started doing that again. The last 2 events, we kind of created this trophy that we were playing for each day, and kind of had a different way of winning it. Either it was for the practice days or actual tournament day. I mean, even though I shot 74 the last round in Evansville, like, the goal was to compete, to make your decisions, to see the shots. And I mean, I shot 74, but I feel like I won we turned the trophy into a chain.
Sure, yeah. I was supposed to ask you, it's called the Good Chain.
Good Chain, yeah. And it's based off of Jocko Willink's Good video, basically, which means, hey, if you can say the word good, then you've still got life. You can fight back. So I mean, you can, for instance, hit it in a bunker and be all pity party like I have been many a times. Or you can be like, well, good. They built this sand wedge. I've got one. I'm going to go in here. I'm going to show off how I can use it, So just kind of more of a winning mindset at all times out there. And it seemed to help me tremendously. And I'm going to try to keep doing that. And I'll be honest, like, he's told me I've helped him in ways, and I really don't know how those are.
Competing at that high level. And it's maybe a different sport, but it's still, there's a mental side of it. I think you made a great point is, hey, I've got a sand wedge. Hey, I have an opportunity. Instead of look at the bad break I got. And I think we all have fallen. I'm plenty guilty of that. That's probably why I'm talking to you on a mic and my face is on TV now. But I think we can be too hard on ourselves, and our expectations can be so high that they strangle us. And I think that's the thing you have to be aware of. Even Hal Sutton, who was on one of my earlier podcasts, and I asked him, I said, you were compared to be the next Jack Nicklaus. And he said, Jim, how could I ever live up to that? And this was Hal Sutton, to me, who was the greatest amateurs that had played in my era and professionally. And he struggled with it. I said, man, if Hal Sutton struggled, then I'm not in that boat by myself. So I think we all can learn from that. But like we said, this is the 3rd time you've made it out back to the PGA Tour. They play for a lot of money. When you look at all those seasons and different ways you got through, what's the biggest thing you took away? What did you learn about yourself during that whole journey, now getting back for the 3rd time?
I mean, I think I learned that, the way I play the game, is still very doable. I'm not the longest hitter, but I do hit it long enough. I just know I heard my good buddy Kenny Perry here, fellow Kentuckian, he's heard him say, as long as you're a hitter of the ball, you can hang around, but if you lose that part of the game, it's kind of hard to kind of stay in. And I've stayed in the arena, and I've just always tried to focus on trying to be a little bit better putter. I'm not trying to be the best in the world, but, if I can putt average, be about a 0 putter and hit as many greens as I do. And I think I can, continue to play. And I think we, like you said, like talking about Hal Sutton and expectations to be the next Jack Nicklaus, like, we're our own self, and we all have our own story in life and in the game of golf, whatever that may be. And I mean, Kenny's a perfect example. Like 45 to 50 was.
I was about to say he's a perfect example for you. And I know you're a big fan of his. And you look at guys like even Jeff Sluman, Lauren Roberts. So many of these
Yeah.
guys had great careers. Steve Stricker came back. He couldn't make a cut. Went back to tour school, had the driver yips, became one of the best players on the PGA Tour. And now he wins every week on the Champs. So, I think for you, and you look like you've kept yourself physically in good shape. And I think that's important, stretching as you get older, as you know. I promise you that I don't do that, and that's why I've probably lost 20 yards. But I think you made a great point. I always felt like I was a really good ball striker. And when I kind of lost a little of that edge, it was like a part of me, which was terrible to think like that. It was gone. And I didn't, not that I was a bad putter, but I didn't have to, I was streaky, but I always hit the ball well. And I think that's the struggle that I got when I got to 50 is I started driving it kind of sideways. And I had never done that. And it was, an edge. And I think what's so important for you is you've kept that competitive edge. Now you're 44. Hopefully you play for 4 or 5 more years on the PGA Tour and you transition into the Champs Tour. I think that's so important, that transition to get to the Champs Tours, to stay competitive, which you have. And I think, you weren't too proud to go back out and play Korn Ferry Tour and keep grinding. That's a testament to you and your character. I think that's so impressive. So many of us, the mental side, the expectations grind us and struggle. We struggle with that. And fortunately for me, I got into TV and I still stay connected to golf, but I haven't missed a shot or a cut in the last 10 or 12 years with the Golf Channel. So that's pleasant. Now, I mispronounce a few Thai names from the LPGA from occasion, and they like to make fun of me. But, you mentioned Kenny Perry, but who were some of the guys or maybe some people who influenced you and kind of got you started? You mentioned you played all the other sports. Who got you started and influenced you early on?
Yeah, so my mom remarried when I was 12, but met my stepfather when I was 6, and he was a golfer. She started playing, and for about 5 years I had no interest. I'm like, this is terrible. Like, I want to take a nap. Like, why are y'all watching this? And then, when I got to about the age 10 or 11, I'd be out at the country club and swimming and on the diving board, and I'd look down at the range and be like, I can do that. Like, I want to go try that. And then it took a year or two of convincing them to finally get me a set of clubs at age 12. And that's kind of between them playing a lot. And then I had a group of friends that I'd gone to school with. When we went to middle school, we kind of went to different school. We moved and went to a school across town. But they were kind of big into golf. So I stayed connected with that group of friends and would join them at the course occasionally. And then actually where my dad lived, about 45 minutes away, the kid across the street I always played with kind of had a little bit of interest, and there was a par 3 course there. So all 3 of those kind of got me started. And then pretty quickly there was a kind of inner club that a couple great guys here in town ran. And we showed up every Monday. We got to play every private course once throughout the summer and compete. And that kind of got my juices flowing, I guess, tournament-wise. And I just kind of continued. I was able to mix it with baseball because high school golf was in the fall here, not in the spring. And it was just kind of a perfect fit. And kind of toward the end of my high school days, I only played golf in the summer and was still able to play the spring baseball season. So chose to go to Morehead State because I really didn't play any golf outside of the state of Kentucky before college. And, it's not the biggest golf school in the country, but it gave me the opportunity to just keep playing and compete and get better. And we had some great guys there that, pushed me to get better then. And, that's how I got into it, and that's how we're still here.
Have you listened to yourself? You call yourself a late bloomer, and I'm sensing something now. I'm sensing, not that I'm trying to talk you into something, but I am.
Hey, man,
I think this third trip.
Married late in life.
There you go. It's just you're a little slow. You're a little slow. It's okay. But I sense that. But you mentioned playing all those other sports. I mean, They had to help even with your golf. And what's your, you've got, kids growing up, you got a 9-year-old. What's your opinion on playing different sports and not focusing specifically on one at 9 years old or 12 years old?
Yeah, I mean, my wife played college basketball here at an NAIA school just north of Lexington. But so we're both in the camp of play as much as you can play, as long as you can play. And our 9-year-old they wanted him to play summer baseball this past summer and have basically like 3 practices a week, 6 games in the weekend, and like. We were like, we don't really want to do that just yet. Like, we want to travel. We want to, have them come to some tournaments.
Sure.
They want to go to the lake. They want to have vacations.
They want to have a life.
Here and there. Yeah. And, right now we're playing flag football. Basketball start up here in the winter. But I know at some point, you got to kind of get down to it and specialize, but we're going to try to hold that off as long as possible. I mean, it's the thought of like summer baseball for me being a parent would be fun. Like I could see how, playing with better players and having fun with the other families, like that's all great. But I don't know what their future holds, if they want to be athletes or what they want to do. But,
well, you want to give them the opportunity.
We want to be at our best
when
we're 18, 17.
Yeah.
How many, best 8-year-olds have you seen that, by the time they're 18, they're
burned out.
No interest.
Yeah. It's like tennis. Golf's becoming that way if we're not careful.
It is. And my kids do a little golf, but like it's the last thing that they're on their list, I think, of their, sports that they love to play. I mean,
yeah, but they see their daddy win on the PGA Tour. I think that might change. that could change spike their interest. Hope. But I think that's a good point, because I think so many people, not that they live their sporting lives through their kids, but they think they're, I think it makes them well-rounded. I think it helps their skills and different motor skills to play the other sports. It used to be people didn't work out and play golf. Oh, I can't lift weights, I'm going to ruin my golf swing. Well, they've proved that you can do some. I mean, not lifting 400 or 500-pound weights, but you have to do those things. You have to stretch. You have to pick up, because golf's become a speed game. And these other sports, I would think, help in the speed. But that's great advice for the parents out there, the kids out there. How do you keep growing the game? We got to kind of keep it fun and interesting for those young people. But a question I always ask, and I'll give you time to think of it. If you have to pause, we'll go to a different question. But you've played against some of the best in the world. And you're one of the best in the world. But what separates that elite player, like a Kenny Perry, or when he was in his prime, or a Rory McIlroy, or these guys that you've played against and seen play, Tiger Woods? What maybe separates those? And you've been around great athletes, maybe from the rest of them. What makes them elite? Is there something that you've seen that maybe kind of drives them?
Yeah, I mean, I just think that they are have ultra belief in what they're doing. The people that are helping them in whatever it may be, fitness or, instruction, like they're all in on that. They're not wavering. They're not doubting any of that. And they have the most self-belief, and they know that, hey, sometimes it's not going to work out. And, if they get knocked down, they're going to jump back up off the mat, and they're going to come out the next time and,
get
be
after
in the mix again.
Yeah. I agree. I think that's a common theme. VJ Trolio, who wrote the book Only One Shot, and that's kind of why I've started doing this podcast. Kind of put half the book is written about me and my journey with my dad teaching me, and my brother and sister who've won professionally on the Korn Ferry Tour. My brother won twice, and my sister won on the LPGA. But he believed that elite, competitive, gritty, healthy competitors are made. They're not managed into existence. And I thought that was a interesting quote from him. And there's a lot of truth to that. There's an inner drive, that competition. And I think it starts early on. I think it starts when the kids are real little. And some are, like my oldest, Mary Langdon, sweetest child you ever meet, is the most competitive person. Now, her mom and dad are just slightly competitive. So maybe she gets that. I look at my daughter, Thomas, my son, was kind of in between. He loved the social part of it. But Kathleen was my least competitive, maybe my most talented at playing golf. She played at LSU, where Mary played at Mississippi State. but she liked for everybody just to enjoy themselves and wanted peace. She didn't like ups and downs, the emotional highs that maybe Mary Lyndon and I kind of did as competitors. And then I've got a youngest that we call her the legacy breaker, Elizabeth. She doesn't even play. She'd make it to about 4 holes before she start tossing clubs like her dad down the fairway. Yeah. But all kids are different, and but she's very competitive, and she's in the construction business as a female in Nashville. And I think that's I think playing those other sports helped them in life. I know that the 2 older girls that played in college golf, that helped them in life. It helped get jobs for them. And I think sports can do that, as you mentioned, get to know people, get the right people. Golf opens those doors that otherwise wouldn't be open. But this is always a tricky question. But when you look back at your career, and it's far from over, what are you most proud of so far in what you've accomplished in on this journey?
I think just the longevity, 7 years of mini tour golf before ever getting on Korn Ferry, and that's a testament to my competitiveness, my desire, perseverance, but it's also a credit to the people that supported me during that time, and then have continued to support me, since then, and then in the last, I guess, 13 to 14 years, just, kind of the ups and downs of the professional golf life, the Korn Ferry, quickly out to the PGA Tour, and a nice 5-year run, and then to go back and I think 3 years back down there and do it again, and then a couple years back up and a couple down, like just the longevity of it. I think, people always ask me, have you ever thought about hanging it up? And I mean, there's been thoughts like, but I don't think seriously. Because number one, I don't know what else I would want to do. And I just, like I said earlier, like I feel like there's still potential to be better. And I haven't maximized my game and still not compete, not been able to compete. So there's still a ceiling I can get to. I haven't reached it yet.
Yeah, I've had a couple guys tell me longevity was something they were very proud of, and that says a lot, because there's a lot of people just hang it up, and sometimes they realize they're just not good enough. You're plenty good enough, but I always like to kind of finish up the podcast. Whether it's life or golf, you may have only one shot, and you got to make it count, and you're making it count again. You might get a third shot in your case, but I'm real proud of you. I appreciate you being with us. Enjoy the family. I know it's been busy time, but enjoy some time off, and we'll see you out in January.
I appreciate it, Jim. Always a pleasure. And, man, I still remember that time in Jackson. It was, I think I was a rookie, and it was a pleasure playing, and I always look forward to running into you out on the road.
Yeah, you drove it over the bunker on 11, and I thought my old self could do it, and I couldn't quite pull that one off, and that's when I realized I need to go get some more ammunition. But have a good time off, and we appreciate you being with us.
Thanks a lot. Take care.
Well, fascinating conversation with Josh Teater. Got kind of emotional a couple times, which I understand. It was an emotional couple weeks. Golf will do that to you. You find out a lot about yourself. You find out in those tough times, those low times, just what you're made of. And can you, as he said, you get up off the mat, you brush yourself off, and you get back on that horse that threw you out and off. And I think that's a testament to him, longevity. Said a lot of great things. Said he had a sense of peace at the Korn Ferry Tour Championship, where he finished fifth to jump from 34th to 26th and get his tour card for the third time, and back to the PGA Tour. And it's going to be tough. Not probably as many starts for some of these Korn Ferry Tour guys. The season starts in January. It'll end in August at the Tour Championship. There will most likely be a fall series again. But you want to keep and stay in that top 70. You want to be in there. You want to make it to the playoffs. It opens up so many doors. But for some of these guys coming off the Korn Ferry Tour, might have some limited starts. So hopefully they get some starts. Hopefully Josh gets out there, and third time's a charm for him. But appreciate Steve Azar for allowing us to use his music. And I mentioned earlier in the podcast, don't forget to get your copy of Only One Shot. That's written by VJ Trolio, and it's available on Amazon. And until next time, we appreciate you being with us, and we'll have a good one.
fertile fields of flatlands and hills raised by anything, whatever a farmer can dream. Slug burger, shrimp boil, catfish fried up in oil. Oh, good gosh almighty, just a husk of hot tamale now. Now that's Mississippi. America's music birthplace, where rock and roll was made out of our gospel and blues and that pure country tune. Oh, authors and poets, so profoundly stoic, an imagination of a child, let their words run wild. Come on now, now that's Mississippi. I said, one Mississippi, there's a magnolia tree. Two Mississippi, where a mockingbird sings out on his limb, whistling that sweet soulful hymn. I said, three Mississippi, to this land called home. I'll breathe Mississippi till I'm dead and gone. Just carry on, I'll carry on, Mississippi. We survived hurricanes, know them by name. Rose above the flood, built a wall of his own mud. And come Sunday morning, we profess our faith with near the cross in his amazing grace. Oh yeah, now that's Mississippi. I say, one Mississippi, there's a magnolia tree. Two Mississippi, where a mockingbird sings out on his limb, whistling that sweet soulful hymn. I say, three Mississippi, to this land called home. I'll breathe Mississippi till I'm dead and gone. Just carry on, I'll carry on, Mississippi. Round here's where the Muppets grew up, and potters and artists inspired all of us. There's kudzu walls and fall football, a Gulf Coast sunset and a Delta dawn. It's simple nights, a smile on the face, taking that peaceful drive down the Natchez Trace. And our old man river, lavish lakes and streams, pines full of the wildest life and possibilities. That's Mississippi. Now Jackson is some kind of centerpiece on a most celebrated table of hospitality. And ain't it funny how the world has come to count it seems? They're doing it everywhere.